It's the Joe Nuxhall Classic here on Chatterbox Sports. Good afternoon, everybody. We are off and rolling. Day number 2 of the Joe Nuxhall Classic, and we welcome you in. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here as we kick things off here this afternoon, of course, as the Miami RedHawks are getting set to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats as we get rolling here. I'm Justin Kinner, Christian Pregame, and, of course, Keegan Nickerson joining us here this afternoon as we get you set for Game 3 of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. Gentlemen, how are we today? Still a little breezy, less sun, but a beautiful day for baseball.
Yeah, a little bit better temperatures, but I prefer a little bit colder with the sunshine, if I do say so myself.
Absolutely. Christian, how are we? How are we feeling today?
I'm doing great, I think it's a little bit better too, but there might be some rain in the forecast today. But we're not going to mention that.
Keep that negative mojo. Keep that negative mojo out of here. I tell you that much. But no, excited to get things off and rolling here today. Again, Miami of Ohio getting set to take on the Cincinnati Bearcats, and well, they're no strangers to one another. We're not just talking about the history of these two schools going up against one another. They're no strangers to one another because this will be the third time in the last month that they've run into one another. But we'll talk about that more coming up here in just a moment. But let's go back to yesterday. How did we get here? Again, Miami of Ohio getting set to take on the Bearcats. Let's start with the RedHawks and how they got to this matchup here today. Of course, they had their hands full with Xavier yesterday. Xavier in the Joe Nuxhall Classic Championship later on tonight against Wright State. But Miami of Ohio, give them credit. They jumped out early on Xavier, very competitive right off the bat, a 4-0 lead. And it felt like, oh man, Xavier, they have their work cut out for them. They did, don't get me wrong, but what happened? Miami of Ohio gets out to that quick lead, Keegan. What happened as far as how they weren't able to hold on to that the rest of the way?
Yeah, they get out to the quick lead, and as the color commentator, I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be a 5-hour affair and 20-21 like we saw last year. But the starting pitching wasn't great, but credit to the relievers who came in and really bared down. Got through a lot of innings, got through a lot of tough situations, kept it to a close ball game. Miami was hurt by miscues in the infield, pop-ups that ended up dropping, and then some opportune hitting by Xavier ended up helping them win the game. But really it's a credit to the relief pitchers, especially for Xavier, giving up 4 runs in the first inning and throwing up a 0 the rest of the way.
Absolutely, and look, the other thing too, I mean, to the RedHawks' credit, at the end of the day, they do jump out to that 4-0 lead. They let that 4-0 lead slip away, but they still had opportunities late. I mean, they still loaded the bases. I mean, the pressure was still continuing to be put on the Musketeers. It's not as if they just totally kind of fell flat after that. They were still aggressive. They just couldn't capitalize on those opportunities, especially when whenever they were able to get so many guys on base. They just couldn't bring them in when those big moments hit.
Yeah, and that's one of the toughest things to do as a baseball player is try to capitalize in those moments with runners in scoring position, and it's a huge gut punch to both the hitter and the entire team's momentum when you have those opportunities slip away.
One thing we talked about yesterday was the fact that, look, we knew Xavier, they were, battle tested. We talked about their strength of schedule. We talked about the fact that they had overcome a lot of injuries, and we saw that battle tested unit come out yesterday against Miami of Ohio when they found themselves down early.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's how will a team respond when they face adversity?
Yep.
And the Musketeers did just fine. We mentioned it. They were down 4-0. They came back, clawed their way back, and won the game 6-4. That is resilience. And a lot of teams, they need that, especially in a game like this where teams know each other very well. That resilience is going to put them over the top.
Absolutely. Again, yesterday for the RedHawks, a big game. David Novak went 2 for 5, 3 RBIs, a 3-run home run, obviously, early on in that. After that scoring load early in the contest, obviously offense went flat after that nonetheless, but Novak with a huge game.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was a rocket shot to left field in the first inning. Had the lefty-righty matchup and really took advantage. Ashton Chronister, credit to him for coming back out in the second inning and being able to throw up a 0 after such a tough first inning, kind of setting the tone for the bullpen.
So Miami of Ohio again getting set to take on the Bearcats. We'll talk about the head-to-head coming up here in just a second, but let's focus on the Bearcats because they had a very tough opponent last night with the Wright State Raiders, and again, very similarly to the matchup we just talked about. UC jumps out to a lead early. Wright State was flat for the first couple of innings. I mean, they put 10 runs up on the board, all 10 runs coming in the final 6 innings of that ball game. Wright State flipped a switch, not just offensively, but obviously their pitching kind of picked up. You're always curious to see kind of the midweek pitchers, how that's going to kind of play a role in these head-to-heads. It's kind of unpredictable at times. But Wright State, the pitching in the final 3 innings, comes in and no hits the final 3. UC just kind of going flat down the stretch.
Yeah, huge credit to Hartzell, who came in late for Wright State. He had a really, really tight off-speed pitch working. And then as I was watching him, he was kind of pounding his chest a little bit, pounding the side of his head even. It's like he's keeping the adrenaline going, staying locked in for the game, and it really paid off for him. But, I said it before the game that Wright State really, really cares about beating teams like Cincinnati. They're not supposed to be as good as UC on paper. They're not supposed to have as much talent, and it looked like they had that pride that they wanted to come in here and beat a team, bigger program, bigger resources.
Absolutely, and Wright State will have another opportunity at that coming up later on this evening in the Joe Nuxhall Classic Championship when they take on the Xavier Musketeers. But with Cincinnati's loss last night against Wright State, and obviously Miami of Ohio falling against Xavier in Game 1 of the Joe Nuxhall Classic, that's what sets up this matchup right here. Now, again, as I mentioned, these two programs no strangers to one another throughout the history of both programs, but definitely no strangers to one another within the last month, Christian, because they've played twice in the last month, and you've been on the call for both of those.
Exactly, and last week in Oxford, there was some controversy whether the Carrington Crouch Grand Slam, was it fair, was it foul? But the key thing was Miami went up early. They were up 2-0. UC couldn't get nothing going through 6. And in the top of the 7th, things changed. With 2 outs, Miami, they started allowing walks, and then error involved, gave the bases loaded, and one swing of the bat by Carrington Cross changed the entire game. And UC put up 6 runs in the top of the 7th.
With that, obviously you look at UC right now, reeling after that loss, yesterday. They were taking a lot of momentum into the Joe Nuxhall Classic, obviously coming off of that series win against Texas Tech. And I know they have Arizona State
coming up, yes.
This weekend. So they're looking ahead to that, a big conference series coming up. But you can't overlook Miami right now because this is a team, too, that desperately wants to get a win after letting one slip through their hands yesterday. So, you look at these two teams who have conference play on their mind, coming up later on this week. They got to get through one another first. It's going to be an interesting competitive matchup.
Yeah, and I expect UC to come out. I don't think that they're satisfied at all with their effort yesterday. There might have been a little bit of lack of focus at the plate, lack of focus in the field, and I think that they're really going to respond. And it's going to be a tough game for Miami to win today, just knowing how much talent and then bouncing off of the loss. And as you kind of mentioned about the Miami game, them scoring those 6 runs after going down, that's an even bigger credit to Wright State yesterday, being able to hold off this UC team that is so used to coming back from behind in multiple games and kind of just stopping every opportunity that UC had.
Going back to the UC side of things too, and their matchup last night with Wright State. Again, you look at some of the performances they got. The sophomore and Jack Datilli again had the most success at the plate for the Bearcats. He reached base 4 times with a hit and 3 walks. I mean, drawing the walks and putting the pressure on the opposing pitching too. That's something to keep an eye on because yesterday we highlighted the fact that no matter how this team gets on base, whether it's, obviously putting the ball in play or drawing walks, once they get on base, this is a very scary team, very active on the base paths, one of the most dangerous teams when it comes to obviously stealing. Got to look out for that if you're Miami today.
Exactly, and we've seen it before. These teams know each other very well. We always said it. They're not unfamiliar with each other, but it's a part of the Bishop Ball like we talked about yesterday. They're going to steal bases. They're going to play some small ball. And you mentioned it too, Keegan. This team has some power hitters too, so they can switch it up and differentiate throughout the game.
Yeah, and Jack Natili's double yesterday. I think that ball was still going up as it hit off the brick wall, and that was one of the hardest balls I've seen hit in a while.
So one other thing to keep in mind as well is just the amount of pitchers that both teams, used yesterday. I mean, when you look at, how many pitchers both teams had to utilize in their matchups yesterday, obviously with Cincy with Wright State, and then of course with Xavier if you're Miami of Ohio. How do you anticipate the usage of the pitching matchups today to be utilized? How do you think that's going to play out?
Yeah, it's interesting because UC used some of their really good relievers yesterday when they were down. Rodney Schultz came in late, Brennan Shire, and then some others. So I think they were going after that game yesterday, even though they were down. They still thought that they had every opportunity, and ball didn't fall their way. A lot of times they had some lineouts, and then Miami had some soft hits, and that's just how baseball's going to work sometimes. But I think they really, really want this one. You don't want to fall in that 0-2 hole in that 2-game losing streak, especially after winning 7 of 8.
Christian, with that being said, right now, UC, they've won 4 straight over the RedHawks, obviously 2 of them coming within the last month. How do they keep that momentum going? How do they keep that win streak over the RedHawks going today?
Well, I think it starts with the pitching. I really do. If you can shut down this Miami offense in which they can throw a lineup at you, in which their top 7 hitters all bat above 300, if you can shut that down and be patient, let your bats wake up and get on base, I think that's going to be a key factor in this game because we know what Cincinnati can do once they reach on base. So the key thing, it's going to be the pitching. If you can shut down the Miami offense, let your bats wake up, and then it should be a smooth sailing ride from here on out.
As far as the RedHawks are concerned, too, wanting to take momentum, with what's coming up, back into conference play for them, how do they get, how do they rebound from that loss against Xavier yesterday, but obviously put that behind them and focus on getting a big win over UC today?
Yeah, don't get too ahead of yourself. I think maybe there was a little bit of getting up 4-0 and finding a little bit of comfort, and then Xavier automatically responds. Then they're able to build. Also, just know that late in the game, you can still score runs. Xavier put up those 2 runs late, especially the one in the 8th on the very well executed hit and run down the right field line, and that was just another gut punch. Difference between 1 and 2 runs in baseball is basically miles wide, and it was just tough to overcome.
Christian, when UC is done with this matchup, they turn their attention right back towards, obviously, conference play out of the Big 12. How does UC look, and how do they stack it up right now in the Big 12?
So right now they are currently 7th. They have a series at home coming up against Arizona State. It's going to be a pivotal 3 games because Arizona State, they're currently 5th. So UC, they need to stack up these wins, and we mentioned it, they can't overlook Miami. So they need to focus on 1 game at a time, focus on today. Once it's done, you have a big series coming up against the Sun Devils.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing, too. You're UC, you're reeling a bit. You're frustrated with that loss against the Raiders last night. Now you have another opponent that technically you're viewed as you're supposed to win this. You don't want to lose a second straight game that you're viewed as supposed to win, right? And we know it has to play it on the field, so that's no disrespect to any team out there. But, when we feel that going in, you feel that pressure a little bit too, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out throughout this matchup.
Yeah, and they don't want to be on the edge of the NCAA tournament again. They want to be a for sure thing. Losing to Wright State, obviously it hurts your RPI, but today's about damage control. Today's about not slipping anymore and just getting right back on track.
Absolutely. Again, you have the Bearcats getting set to take on the RedHawks, Miami of Ohio, coming up here in just a little bit. Again, it's the Joe Nuxhall Classic here at Prasco Field here in Mason, and we're excited to be with you here just ahead of this. We're also going to be hanging out with you before the championship game later on tonight, Wright State and Xavier. That's going to be another good one, too, right there. Again, Xavier, they won it in 22. They won it in 23. Last year, we didn't get to complete the Nuxhall Classic, so we, joked with their coach yesterday that, well, what the heck, we'll just say you pulled it off, right? But we got another good one coming up later on tonight as well.
Yeah. Billy O'Connor just picked up his 200th win recently, looking for 202. And as we talked about yesterday, a lot of talented baseball in this city, a lot of great programs. So to be able to kind of hold that crown is, for a 2-day stretch, the best program in the city. That's something to take pride in.
Absolutely. He talked about, the 200 career wins for Xavier's coach. Same thing for Wright State as well. So you have 2 coaches who just recently won their 200th career game and going head-to-head tonight to try to win the Joe Nuxhall Classic. So it'll be pretty exciting.
It is, and that's an incredible feat. Anytime you win 200 times, it's very impressive. And you talked about it, too, yesterday. The landscape, how the game is, you don't really, get to see that much the way how things are changing and evolving in the landscape of college sports. So it's definitely an impressive feat and amazing how it kind of happened for 2 coaches at nearly the same identical time.
Yeah.
One thing last night in the postgame, Alex Sogard, head coach for Wright State, one thing he brought up that did catch my attention, said that obviously they've been playing in this for a while, feels like this is the most competitive field in the Joe Nuxhall Classic that he's experienced in a while. I think we can agree on that, right? I mean, you look how competitive all 4 of these teams have been. I definitely agree. I think that this is one of the most competitive fields we've seen in a while.
Yeah, and it's kind of going back to the landscape of college baseball. The transfer portal allows for a lot of competitive balance because a lot of really good players don't sit at programs anymore. They're going to want to transfer to have the opportunity to play. And across D1 sports, that kind of brings everything tight, and you're seeing that on the field here.
Absolutely. All right, so with that being said, again, game one of the day, but game 3 overall of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. The RedHawks, after a tough loss yesterday against the Xavier Musketeers, looking to avenge that loss and try to pull off a big win against the Bearcats out of the Big 12 coming up here in just a few moments. We appreciate the fact that you guys took some time and hung out with us here this afternoon. We'll be right back with you ahead of the championship game later on tonight as the Raiders look to take on the Xavier Musketeers. But that wraps it up for us. It's now time for baseball. And we have, of course, the Miami RedHawks and the Cincinnati Bearcats. The Joe Nuxhall Classic continues when we return.
Welcome back to Prasco Park in Mason, Ohio. We are set for Game 2, or Day 2, I should say, of the Joe Nuxhall Classic, as Cincinnati is set to take on the Miami RedHawks in the consolation game. Here with Keegan Nicholson, I'm Anthony Mazzini. So glad you can join us today. Each of these teams coming off a loss yesterday. Keegan trying to rebound today in the second day of this Nuxhall Classic. Miami acting as the home team today. And each team, as I mentioned, trying to get back on track before they continue their respective conference play.
Yeah, two different losses yesterday. Miami gets out to a 4-0 lead, and then they were blanked the remaining 8 innings. Really good relief pitching by Xavier, and then Cincinnati yesterday just couldn't make the necessary plays. Had the drop fly ball in left field that really cost them. Some errors in the infield, and Wright State put up 10 runs and hit the ball really well near the end of the game. UC just really couldn't put together the effort to get back in it, ultimately, like they've done so many times this season.
Austin Bergeron gets the start for Miami today. Coming into the game, 14.29 ERA, but he's been better as of late. Pitched well over the weekend against Bowling Green. Had a scoreless appearance against Wright State last week as well, and he faces a Cincinnati lineup today, Keegan, that's a little bit different. That top half is more or less the same, but you get to that bottom third of the lineup. Dawson Hokiff is in there today, Quentin Coates, Loudon Brooks dropping down, so a bit of a different look for the Bearcats today as they try to get back in the win column.
Yeah, Donovan Ford is at the bottom of the lineup yesterday. Now he's hitting second, and we saw his athleticism and speed when he knocked down a really nice bunt for hit and easily beat out the play at first.
Carrington Cross digs in to lead it off, hitting .429 on the season. Bergeron set to go. The first pitch of the ball game is taken for strike one. Justin Penix behind the plate today. Jim Enright and John Molesky, the field umpires. Cross 1 for 3 yesterday. He comes in on a 5-game hitting streak. Quickly down 0-2.
He had some line outs yesterday that were definitely really tough. Also had the single through the left side. Took a off-speed pitch right off the elbow at the end of the game. It looked like he was in some pain as well, but good to see that he's in the lineup today.
DHing once again today, usually the third baseman for the Bearcats. And he's late on that fastball. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. A good start for Bergeron.
Yeah, just looks like a discombobulated swing on that one. Might have been sitting something else.
Well, first strikeout today for the right-hander. And 1 up and 1 down, he deals with Donovan Ford. Ford had a great day yesterday, batting in that bottom part of the Bearcats lineup. 2 for 4 with a run batted in. Overall in the season, hitting .258.
.815 OPS, 7 for 11 on the stolen bases, and we saw Wright State pick over at him about 10 to 12 times in 1 inning yesterday, so they know how dangerous he could be.
Pulls away the bunt bid. 2 balls and no strikes. Overall, he's made that jump from Division II Newberry very well. He is the program record holder in batting average at Newberry, second in stolen bases. And that is translated to the Power Conference level. Ground ball over to third, backing up on it, Krupinski. And a good stretch over there to hold the bag for Applewick. 2 up and 2 down.
I saw a little bit of a double tap with the ball and glove there from Krupinski, and was concerned that Ford was going to beat that one out on a rather routine play. And it was pretty close, but ultimately got the out.
Yeah, Ford's one of those guys, you double clutch, you could be in some dangerous waters there, but a good play all around, Krupinski and Applewick. And Bergeron's retired the first 2 he has faced. He now deals with Landon Vitterick. Vitterick trying to drop the bunt down. Krupinski charging, throws on the run, and it is late. Good effort by Krupinski, better speed for Vitterick. And a 2-out bunt single extends the first inning.
And now we've got one of the nation's leaders in stolen bases at first base. Really good for Vitterick to get that down. He went 0 for 4 yesterday, had a really tough day. Now he's got some momentum, and he's second on the team in runs scored, and there's a reason for that because he will be very active on the base paths.
20 stolen bases on the year, standing at first base. You mentioned the prowess in the country, tied 19th in the NCAA coming into the week. Here's Jack Natilli. There goes Viderick on the first pitch. A swing and a miss, the throw, and the tag is late. So add another one to Viderick's tally, his 21st of the year, and in scoring position with 2 outs.
And you know you're confident in your abilities when you waste no time just going on the first pitch. It's rare for someone to do that.
And Natilli has been an RBI machine lately. Added another one yesterday. 14 runs batted in the last 11 games. And has a man in scoring position with 2 outs. You really think about that, Keegan. 14 runs batted in the last 11 games. Natilli has 27 on the year. More than half of his runs batted in have come in the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I think I can still see the dent in the brick wall up there from the ball that he hit yesterday. It was a rocket shot.
Good breaking ball from Berggren there.
Not giving Natilli anything hard. Now with 1-2, I'm interested to see where he goes.
Retired the first 2, then allowed the bunt single to Viderick. He's at second base after the stolen base. Berggren trying to keep him there. He steps off. Wants to go through it again with his catcher, Carson Rather. Here comes the 1-2. And it is a swing and a miss once again. 2 punch-outs in the first inning for the right-hander Berggren. And Miami coming up for the first time in the first game of the second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. How about this matchup for you, Keegan, on the mound? Austin Berggren, 2 strikeouts in the first inning for Miami, and Max Bergman, the starter for Cincinnati, who's been very good over his last couple appearances, has not allowed a run in his last 3 outings. That's the start for the Bearcats.
Yeah, it doesn't make your job very easy, but it's an interesting one.
He faces this lineup today with Dylan Baker set to lead it off. Ty Bodicic had a great game yesterday. The power for Applewick. Zarlingo, one of the best contact hitters in the MAC. So some depth for this Miami lineup. They also shuffle it up today, Keegan, with Proctor and Rather getting a start today in right field and catcher respectively. Berggman on the season, 4.5 ERA. Pitched over the weekend against Texas Tech.
That's one. I'm going to keep count of how many times he mixed it up. Yeah.
Dealing with Dylan Baker here, and he fouls it off his front foot.
Welcome to the game. That's always a good first pitch for a guy, is to take it off your ankle.
Baker trying to walk it off. It's going to take a lot more than that to get Dylan Baker out of the lineup. Brian Smiley, the head coach for Miami, says he is just a tough at bat, a blue-collar kind of guy. Coach Smiley said he'll take him over anybody, but needing a bit of extra time here to shake this one off.
I've never heard someone describe a hitter as blue-collar in this approach.
Tough at bat?
Yeah.
Just goes to work, grab the lunch pail, and show
First
up.
one there, last one to leave.
Hitting .311 on the year. And he lines it out to left center. Sefcik coming in and has to play it in front of him. Leadoff base hit for Dylan Baker. 5 games in a row now with a knock for the RedHawks shortstop, and they're in business.
Yeah, we saw Sefcik make that diving play earlier in the game last night, and that one just too softly hit. Very well placed by Baker.
So leadoff man aboard for Miami for Ty Bodicic. Bergman into the stretch with the man on. That's 2, Keegan, and he pops it up. Shallow left, Sefcik has a play on this one.
He really camped under that one. I think he's having flashbacks to last night when he was running towards the foul line, and then the ball ended up going to the left of him.
So Bergman gets his first man. Bodicic retired. And brings in Evan Applewick. Ton of power in this guy's bat. 13 home runs on the year for Applewick. Came into the week second in the MAC in home runs with the 13. Breaking ball to get Bergman ahead.
South Dakota native. I don't know if there's a lot of Division I baseball players out of South Dakota. It doesn't seem like a very big baseball state.
I can guarantee you there are not that many in the tri-state area here. Baker at first base, 3 of 4 in stolen bases on the year. A bit closer that time, Baker back in. Applewick's name is littered among the top 10 in MAC offensive rankings, mentioned second in the home runs. 3rd in runs batted in as well. 5th in OPS. Tough hitter for Bergman to face here. And that is shot through the left side, a base hit. Second knock of the inning for Miami, and 2 on with 1 out.
Hit it where they're not, and good things happen. Not exactly the hardest hit ball, a well-hit ball, but hit it where they weren't, and now we've got runners at first and second, and Miami's threatening.
So Max Bergman, as I mentioned, is not allowed to run in his past 3 appearances. Pitched well over the weekend against Texas Tech, struck out 2 in a scoreless inning, but dealing with an early threat. 2 on, 1 out for Anthony Zarlingo. Zarlingo came into the week scuffling, but had a good day yesterday, 2 for 4 with a run batted in against Xavier. Previously, he had just 1 hit in his previous 4 games.
Yeah, he was 3 for 17 in his last 5 games coming into yesterday. He's the career walk record. He has the career walk record at Southwest Tennessee Community College. So a JUCO guy.
Currently leads the MAC in walks as well, so signs of a good hitter when you're not hitting the ball as well as you'd like, but still finding a way to get on base and be productive. Chance to do some damage here against Max Bergman. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Both pitchers, Keegan, going to that breaking ball when they need to get a strike. Showing early confidence in that pitch.
The best relievers yesterday, that was something that they could rely on.
Fly to left, Sefcik a few steps back. Still backpedaling, and he makes the catch. The wind is blowing out to left. You see the flags there.
Yeah.
Carrying out to left field, and I think Sefcik didn't quite realize how far that ball was going to carry, but still recovered to make the play.
You know, anytime you're a coach in the dugout and you see your outfielder just backpedaling for any longer than like 5 feet, you're going to hold your breath. And that one was very close to being another disaster for Sefcik in left field, but he made the play.
A big second out for Max Bergman. And he deals with Ryan Novak. Novak yesterday 0 for 3 with a walk. He snapped a 9-game hitting streak. Played well over the weekend against Bowling Green, 4 for 8 with a run batted in.
Hitting .206 with 2 outs this season, .361 with runners in scoring position.
In the dirt, good stop from Natilli. 2 balls and a strike. One of 2 players on this Miami roster with the same spelling of a last name, not related, not from the same area, pronounced 2 different ways. Bergman makes the throw to second, checking on Baker. You got Ryan Novak, and then yesterday David Novak. 2 totally different pronunciations, 2 totally different parts of the country. The exact same spelling. David not in the lineup today, at least to start. Up and in, 3 balls and a strike. Bergman falling behind here.
That's why you're one of the best in the business, knowing that information. Novak. Wow.
Gotta make sure you give credit to the Miami Communications Department as well, providing the pronunciation guides. That misses low, ball 4, and they're all loaded up for Miami in the first inning. Bergman just 1 out away from getting out of it, but putting himself in an early jam with the 2 hits and now the walk.
That's not what you want to see, especially after last night. Adam Rakic was really dealing. The lefter for Cincinnati racked up 6 strikeouts, but then the walk started and the situational hitting started and Cincinnati started suffering.
Off the front foot of Krupinski, and that's going to force it a run. So Baker's going to touch home, and Miami jumps out to the 1-0 advantage on a hit by pitch with the bases loaded. Might be the easiest run batted in of the year for Krupinski.
Yeah, don't love starting with off speed there, but obviously that's me looking at it in hindsight. But you have very, very little options with the bases loaded.
Caught him right on that front foot. And still loaded up in this first inning. First pitch swinging and fouled off by Keenan Proctor, getting the start today. Transfer from UCLA, spent 2 years on the West Coast with the Bruins. Playing in only his 7th game of the year. His last action actually came against Cincinnati in their March 11th meeting at UC Baseball Stadium. These 2 teams have played twice already, once in Cincinnati and once up in Oxford. The Bearcats won both meetings. But Miami off to the good start today.
Miami's probably pretty motivated after the last loss to Cincinnati. They were out to a 2-0 lead and then had a controversial foul ball or home run for Carrington Cross that was rolled a home run, and Cincinnati ends up winning that game 6-4.
Saw that yesterday with Cincinnati with Jack Natilli sending it down the left field line. Line to right, and that's going to be a base hit for Proctor. Applewick scores, Novak behind him. Krupinski getting the wave around, the relay to the plate. Not going to be in time. Proctor headed for third. It is a bases clearing knock for Keenan Proctor. His first hit of the year, drives in 3 for Miami.
That's what the smart hitting by Miami that they've had all inning. Seeing pitches, getting on base. They're not exactly hitting the cover off the ball, but they're just putting it in the right spot and taking really good approaches, getting in good counts. And now you got to bear down if you're Bergman and just try to survive this inning somehow and get into the dugout so the bullpen can do whatever work it has to do if they're going to send out a new pitcher. But also credit to Proctor, never stopped running and ended up at third when a lot of people would have been comfortable at second.
Big swing there for Rather as he tries to add to the lead. How about that, Keegan? Your first hit of the season. You've only played in 6 games coming into today, and your first knock is a bases-clearing double. Advances to third on the throw. So tough to do, staying ready when you're not called on too often.
Absolutely. It's a confidence builder.
You could say the same about Carson Rather as well. He's only played in 7 games with 1 start entering today. His last action came against Cincinnati as well on March the 11th. So it's been about a month.
Should feel very confident at the plate right now. He knows Bergman is reeling. He's just trying to get something across the plate, and on a 2-1 count, should be getting something to hit.
Bergman just can't find the strike zone right now. 3 balls and a strike. Buzzio on deck for the RedHawks. Bergman's 3-1. And it is up and away. Second walk this inning. And Max Bergman really struggling for Cincinnati.
Got some movement down in the Bearcats bullpen. And here comes Jordan Bischel, so this could possibly be it for Bergman.
Dawson Hoke from first base and Quentin Coates from third all came over to have a mound visit to try to get Bergman on track. Jordan Bischel doesn't always make a move when he comes out to the mound, but he is notorious for going out there and waiting for the home plate umpire to make his way about 3/4 of the way to the mound. Buy the bullpen some extra time and then make a move. You see him continuously looking down the right field line. He's going to wait for the home plate umpire. Today that is Justin Penix. Still no move made yet. And now the move will be made. Like clockwork. Now, tough outing for Max Bergman. He had not allowed a run in his previous 3 appearances, but allows 4 and counting in the first inning against Miami today, and an early call to the bullpen for Cincinnati. Going to Joel Pinheiro. Comes in with 2 on and 2 out in the first.
Okay, so when it comes to prescription drugs, why don't you have a choice? Yeah, sure, you've got brand name drugs, but those can get expensive. And then there's regular generics, which are safe and effective, but may not be exactly the same as brand name. Why don't you have another option? Meet authorized generics, a unique class of generic drugs approved by the FDA, identical to the brand name, and made of the same active and inactive ingredients as the brand name. Unlike regular generics, which are manufactured by a different company and often have different inactive ingredients, which could result in a different experience. Authorized generics are identical to brand name drugs because they're made with the same exact formula, most often made in the same exact manufacturing facility to give you the same exact texture, taste, size, smell, and feel as the brand name drugs. It's all legit and always FDA approved. Look, when it comes to what you take, you deserve a choice. And you have one. Ask your pharmacist if there's an authorized generic version of your prescription today. Identical to brand name, affordable to you. AuthorizedGenerics.com.
Chick-fil-A.
Now we're talking.
What'd you say yuck to? Both of those?
Or roses.
The roses.
Back at Prasco Park, a tough first inning for Cincinnati pitcher Max Bergman. He doesn't even make it out of the first. Joel Pinheiro comes in with 2 out and 2 on. 6.29 ERA, and this is a guy that he can give Cincinnati some length here. He has started some games, Pitched on Sunday against Texas Tech, only win an inning. It was a tough outing for him, allowed 5 hits and 4 earned, but likely called on here, Keegan, to give some length and first and foremost get out of this first inning with already 4 runs in.
Yeah, you're at the bottom of the Miami order. Just fill up the zone, pitch to contact, let your defense make some plays.
Blake,
go ahead.
Blake Buzzio, not your typical 9-hole hitter. 274 on the year, and he's driven in 23. So Proctor's at third for Miami, Rather at first. Both would be charged to Bergman. Strike at the knees.
Good pitch on 1-0. Fresh arm, especially after missing the off-speed pitch with the first pitch of his appearance. If I'm a hitter, I'm salivating over a fastball, but he dotted the corner.
Buzzio yesterday 0 for 3 with a walk in the loss to Xavier. Had a 6-game hitting streak coming into the week. Now the theme of this inning for Cincinnati pitching, not finding the strike zone. Bergman fell behind numerous times and had to leave some pitches over the plate, and he also walked 2. That is shot to short, but right at Loudon Brooks. Allowed out to wrap up the first inning, but the damage done. 4 runs in for Miami. Keenan Proctor, the 3-run double, has Miami in front.
Will shows up, starts small and digs in. Will builds connections where others create barriers. Will resolves to grow beyond doubt, to be more than the sum of our setbacks. Will finds a way forward because it's not just what we do, it's who we are. Your vision, our purpose. Together, we will.
Start 4-0 after 1 inning here at Prasco Park. Midweeks have been tough for the RedHawks. They are 0-8 in midweek action this year. On the weekends, a totally different story. Coming in 3rd in the MAC standings, entering today, only behind Ball State and Kent State, but they've been a much better weekend team. Trying to pick off Cincinnati in the second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. And Brian Smiley going to the bullpen after a really good inning from Austin Berggren. It is Troy Benko coming into the game for the RedHawks. Pitched on Sunday against Bowling Green, went 2 innings, allowed 2 earned against the Falcons. He comes in with a 4-0 lead at his disposal.
Well, not a great start for UC, but the basketball team just got some pretty good news as Jizzle James has announced he will return next season.
How about that?
A lot of departures, but they keep a key piece in the backcourt.
I'll tell you, Keegan, basketball is becoming a lot like football nowadays, just a 365 discussion.
There's over 2,000 players in the portal from the Division I ranks.
Make of that what you wish. Well, Benko on the year, 7.31 ERA. He comes in the second inning, faces Christian Mitchell to lead it off for Cincinnati. We've seen Cincinnati square around to bunt a couple of times. Vitterick got one down for the bunt single last inning. Down 4-0 here, Keegan. You have a feeling that they're going to try to manufacture some offense and runs and get guys on base any way they can.
Yeah, and that's special ball. The only thing I'll say about the showing bunt, and I saw it yesterday, is that it doesn't look like it kind of looks like they're thinking about bunting when they do it, and it's that they're not committed to it. So then in that case with Christian Mitchell, you fall behind in the count.
Just off the outside edge. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Mitchell hitting .250 on the year. Played third base yesterday. He slides over to second today. Carrington Cross, we mentioned during his at-bat last inning, he's not played the field during the 2 midweek games. Popped up, and that'll make its way to the seats. Late arriving crowd here for the first game of this Joe Nuxhall Classic. It was similar yesterday. I know you were here for both games, Keegan. It was similar for game 1, and then it really filled in for the second game. Nightcap tonight will be the championship game, Xavier against Wright State. This tournament's been going on since 2009. And the 4 teams have played in it every single year. Cincinnati, Xavier, Miami, and Wright State.
There's much more people here usually than what are in the stands. I say about 50% of the total capacities in the stands, and then the others are out enjoying the festivities and the food.
Good at bat here from Mitchell. Fell behind 0-2 and fouled off some tough pitches. For those unaware, with the Prasco Park facilities offerings, free concessions, free parking, free admission, and just a beautiful field. Great place to watch a game. It hosts the Big East tournament. That partnership will continue for the next handful of years. Hosts some AAU and summer ball leagues in the Cincinnati area. The Joe Nuxhall Classic every year is played here. A couple of years ago, it was the alternate site during the pandemic. Certainly gets its use and still looks pristine.
You can tell there's a full staff devoted to the upkeep of this place. It's always in great shape.
Full count on Mitchell, who has worked his way from down 0-2 to now a full count. Benko trying to retire his first man in this second inning. Mitchell just won't go away. Still a long way to go. Keegan down 4 runs. Rome's not built in a day, but this feels like the kind of at bat that Cincinnati needed to set the tone against a new pitcher after Miami jumped out to the 4-run lead.
Yeah, falling behind 0-2 and then being able to work a walk or get a hit is a great momentum shift.
Foul tip. It's held onto by Rather. Good at bat, but Benko wins the battle.
I'll eat that announcer's jinx. Great job by Miami's catcher to hold on to that one.
It made Benko work, but blew the fastball by Mitchell. Good spot, too, down and away. Third strikeout already for Miami pitching. Sefcik watches it outside. Cal Sefcik 0 for 3 yesterday. It snapped a 6-game hitting streak. Overall, hitting .324, one of the best offensive performers for the Bearcats on the year. Rather gives it a look, but it's out of play. 1 ball and 2 strikes on Sefcik. Benko on the bump his first year at Miami, a transfer from Mesa Community College. Spent half his time in the bullpen, half the time in the rotation last year with Mesa. That is fly to center. Zarlingo drifting back. And he takes care of it for the second out.
First baseman.
Outside of a bunt single last inning, quiet offensive at-bats for Cincinnati to begin this game.
It's been a quiet last 7, 8 innings for him. Feel like need a home run to jolt some energy into him.
Here's Dawson Hokiff getting the start at first base today. And he golfs it out to right center. Proctor ranging back towards the gap. Zarlingo calls him off and makes the catch right at the fence. That ball continued to carry, didn't it? Hokiff gave it a ride, but it is a loud out number 3, and the Bearcats go 3 up and 3 down.
Stage is set for my people, yeah. Coming back like a sequel, yeah. So hot, I'm a fever, yeah. Like the white wolf, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I'm running on straight pizza, yeah. Like I'm evil, Knievel, yeah. Too fast, it's illegal. Call me the underdog, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I don't ever wanna look back. The future's blurry, but the past is a trap. I might be staring at my last. Watch the three fights. But I'm cold-blooded. I'm cold-blooded. Ice in my veins, never gonna run. Venom on my face, fire on my tongue. I'm cold-blooded. It's all or nothing. If I go down, gonna burn with the sun. Won't quit now till I'm sitting on the throne. I'm cold-blooded.
Back here at Prasco Park in Mason, Ohio, Miami in front of Cincinnati 4-0 after an inning and a half. Sent all 9 men to the plate in the bottom of the first inning. And coming up again, facing Joel Pinheiro for the Bearcats. He came on and got the final out of the home half of the first on the line out to short. And Dylan Baker digs in. Singleton scored in his first at-bat. Chops this over to third. It's bobbled briefly by Coates. Bobbled again, and he doesn't have a play. So Coates getting the start at third today. And Cincinnati commits their first error of the ball game.
And that's just a play that's got to be made. And you see him turning over the mid a little bit. Kind of want to see him try to field that like a normal ground ball just at his waist. And still had a chance, but then kicked it around. And this is how Wright State did so much damage. They'd get on via air or walk, and then situational hitting or stolen bases.
Ty Bodicic after the first pitch again. Flew out to left his first at-bat on the first pitch and now pops out to short in his second at-bat. So he has seen 2 pitches, and he is 0 for 2.
First baseman, Evan Applewell.
A good job by Pinheiro to get the first out after the error. You mentioned it, Keegan, yesterday. Things just unraveled for Cincinnati. Adam Marakic allowed 4 runs, the starter for Cincinnati, but only 1 was earned.
He was dealing. He had a swagger about him. He was in a flow. And then some errors just hurt him.
Rodney Schultz as well, an inning and a third, gave up 3 unearned runs. Applewick takes strike 1. So you think about it, 6 of Wright State's 10 runs were unearned. Pinheiro trying to work around the leadoff error to open up this inning. Good job by Natili to get that back over the outside corner. Quickly 0-2. That's one area of Jack Natili's game that's improved so much. Jordan Bischel said coming into the season that they knew he would hit, but the defense has improved significantly.
we've seen a lot of good catching so far over the past 2 days. Boston Smith put on a show. Jack Jellick put on a show. Jake Jellick for Xavier. A lot of great blocks.
It's off the fence of the Miami dugout. Pinheiro came in the first inning to relieve Max Bergman. His first full inning of work here in the second. Up and away. Continuously checking on Baker over there. He has not attempted a steal yet, and overall, this Miami team, Keegan, not known for running. They are 10th in the MAC in stolen bases.
Got a lot of guys hitting over 300, so kind of just a contact team. Get them on and move them around via the bat.
Yeah, not to say that they've been thrown out a ton. That's not the case. They just don't run a lot in general. And yet it has led, as you mentioned, to a lot of offensive production, top 3 in the MAC in a number of categories. Counts full. You get a lot of coaches and managers like that, depending on their philosophy. Some would say, let's put the pressure on. Cincinnati would fall into that category. Others say you only get 27 outs. If that's not our strength, why would we run into them? There goes Baker there. It's a cut and a miss. Throw to second, and he is out by a mile. A strike him out, throw him out for Jack Natilli and the Bearcats to end the home half of the second.
What is a Bearcat? A Bearcat is determined, resilient, curious. We show up ready to work, to play, to grow. And while a lot's changed in our 200 years, there is one defining trait that unites us all. Bearcats go big. Big discoveries, big dreams, big impact, big leaps for mankind, big miracles. And when we reach the summit, we fix our gaze on new heights. We never stop. That's just who we are. Bearcats go big.
Top of the third inning in the second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. First game between Cincinnati and Miami. The RedHawks have the 4-0 lead. In between innings here, Keegan, they just showed a clip from the movie Sandlot. And we were talking before the game, this whole atmosphere, this whole venue feels like Field of Dreams. Somebody goes out and is extremely generous and builds a stadium and allows other teams to use it, gives you everything for free, and people are going to come.
Yeah. It feels like, you know, when you think about winning the lottery, like what you would do with all that money, this is one of the things that would enter my mind as something to spend a lot of money on.
Would you put it in a unique location, or would you put it in your backyard?
See, I would put it in a cornfield, kind of like Field of Dreams. Get people to drive somewhere they usually wouldn't. No knock on this place, because in terms of a location in the greater Cincinnati area, this is about as good as you can get.
About a 30-minute drive north of downtown Cincinnati. Quentin Coates leads off the top of the third. Number 8 man in the Bearcats order, getting the start today. Still facing Benko out there for his second inning of work, and he retired the Bearcats 1-2-3 in the second. Austin Berggren started the game, struck out a pair in his lone inning.
Just feels like you're waiting for that moment for the Bearcats, so where they can bust everything open. And every time they get a runner on base and you think that moment might be coming, it's kind of the opposing pitcher just bears down and gets out of the inning.
Well, you mentioned at the tail end of last inning, Keegan, how Cincinnati, even going back to the second half, the tail end of the game yesterday against Wright State, they've been quiet offensively. As Coates gets rung up, a breaking ball froze him. Second K for Benko. But you wouldn't expect that coming into this week. Cincinnati against Texas Tech put up a lot of runs. They won 2 out of 3 on the road in Lubbock. And coming into this week, they had won 8 of 10 games. Got to look at that breaking ball there. And they had been scoring quite a few runs. Popped up off the bat of Loudon Brooks. Rather thinks he has a play right near the fence, and it gets over that fence.
Shoving match with the umpire in order to get to that ball. Loudon Brooks is someone that UC would really love to see get going. A veteran Texas Tech transfer, really helped him at the end of last year, especially in that BYU series in Provo.
Ground ball over to his counterpart at short. Baker on the backhand. Handles the second out. Brooks did have a good week against his former teammates down in Lubbock. Hit .333 against Texas Tech over the weekend. But he's now 0 for 4, including yesterday's game in the Nuxhall Classic this week. Miami pitching has retired 6 Bearcats in a row. Back to the top for Carrington Cross. And he pops it up. Shallow center field. Second baseman Buzzio is out there. And it is another 1-2-3 inning for Miami pitching. Up 4-0. Game 1 of the second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic sees Miami in front 4-0 after 2.5 innings. Anthony Mazzini here with Keegan Nickerson. Cloudy skies overhead, perhaps some rain in the forecast later on. It should be dry for this game. Bit chilly outside. Why is it, Keegan, that whenever these teams are on the road, it is beautiful weather here in this area, and whenever any of these teams decide to play at home, the weather's always iffy?
This is the worst part of the Midwest. Of living in the Midwest, you never know. I still remember it was mid-March. I think it was like 75 or 80 and sunny. And I finally said, you know what, that was one of the worst winters I'd had in my life, and now it's finally over. We get to enjoy the warmth, and then you just get slapped in the face with cold temperatures.
Deceiving, to say the least. Anthony Zarlingo to lead it off for Miami, home half of the third. We can talk about this more in the second game of this Nuxhall Classic, the championship game tonight, but Wright State, every single conference weekend has been altered by weather. They have not played a traditional Friday, Saturday, Sunday at any point in conference play yet. They've had to play double headers and totally alter the schedule either during the weekend or even before the weekend starts.
UC's had multiple cancellations as well, not even rescheduled, just straight canceled. So that's been something they've had to deal with as well.
Xavier, same thing.
And then, of course, the days when it rains, it's like 65 degrees, but got to wear that.
I'd like to see you stay in there.
Hey, I've worn some
easier
tough
said
ones.
than done.
I've worn some tough ones. You're going to get hit with a fastball. You might as well take the off speed.
Pinheiro way behind here, 3-0 against the leadoff man, Zarlingo. Brian Smiley could not have been more complimentary of this young man. Not only about the player he is, but just the person he is as well. Smiley told me that he is a yes sir, no sir type of kid, very polite. Last year had a really good fall, played his way into the rotation, and then just lost some confidence as the year went along. As he lines out to short there, Brooks on a bit of a bunny hop to make the catch. Zarlingo retired, but he is having a fantastic senior year.
2 hardest hit balls of the day for Miami have both been lineouts to Loudon Brooks.
Zarlingo retired. Here's Ryan Novak. Just to go back to Zarlingo for a minute, should it be any surprise that a guy that's so polite like that is from Olive Branch, Mississippi? Olive Branch, of course, the sign of peace and camaraderie. That fastball just missed. Pinheiro wanted it. Didn't get the call from Justin Penix behind the plate. Gets that call, similar spot. 2 balls and a strike. Novak walked and scored his first at bat. Both pitchers here in a bit of a groove, more so for Miami, but even Pinheiro got the strike him out, throw him out to end last inning. The only base runner reached on an error. That one skips in. The count's full.
He's really liking that inside part of the plate with the off speed. Very nearly hit Zarlingo. That one was close to hitting the foot there.
Flied out to center field. Ford drifting his way back and gets the body turned around to make the catch. Wind not whipping as much as it was earlier in the ball game, and certainly not whipping the way it was in Game 1 yesterday. But even as these fielders settle under the baseball, Keegan, there's some uncertainty. They look a little bit unsettled whenever a ball's up in the air.
Yeah, you kind of see the feet chopping a little bit, like they're preparing to move if they have to. It's never a great feeling. You love the quiet, winded days when you can just camp under a ball knowing where it's going to go. But
that one's off the backside of Krupinski. It's the second time he's been plunked. I believe on 2 pitches. Bergman hit him in the first inning right on the front foot. And now on the first pitch facing Pinheiro, he gets hit. Well, that on-base percentage continues to go up for Krupinski, whether he wanted it to be that way or not. I mentioned Pinheiro likes that inside corner, but that one too far in. And Proctor fouls off the bunt. Krupinski was in motion there as well. Trying to take a page out of Cincinnati's playbook.
Tough to bunt those high pitches with any sort of actual execution. It's kind of just getting it down.
Good pitch there from Pinheiro. I had nothing in 2 on Proctor.
As you mentioned before, Miami not a team that steals bases, and I'd be shocked to see him moving after how easily Jack Matilli threw out the runner the end of last inning.
not going, and Proctor fouls it off. If you're just joining us, Proctor has the big hit in the game. His first and only hit of the year. A 3-run double. Cleared the bases in the first inning. Ended up taking third on the relay throw in. We've talked about it, Keegan. Miami doesn't run a lot, and I understand you have to keep runners close, but there's been a big fascination from Cincinnati pitching today keeping tabs on Miami runners when that's not really part of their game.
Yep.
Running there, pitches down and in, Natili's throw, and Brooks tries to swipe the tag across but lost the baseball. Now a stolen base for Krupinski, his 5th of the year to get into scoring position.
It looked like the throw beat him, and if Brooks would have held on to that ball, it appeared that that would have been another out for Natili.
I think you're right.
Never really got it in the glove at all. I thought it might have went in and then on the sweep tag shoot it out, but never really secured it.
Slid past the bag as well. If Brooks held that tag with the ball, Krupinski would have been out, and that's pulled through the right side. Second hit for Proctor. Krupinski rounds third. He scores. Have a day, Keenan Proctor. 2 hits, 2 at-bats, 4 batted in.
That's what Wright State did yesterday. They put pressure on UC's defense. You see the little mistakes, and then very shortly after, they do just enough to get the run in. You see Miami see nice single through the right side, and then they score easily.
So Pinheiro got the first 2 outs in this inning, and then the hit batter, stolen base, comes back to bite him. Keenan Proctor perhaps working his way into the weekend lineup. Here's Carson Rather, the catcher. 2 outs and a man on for him. Miami in search of their first win of the year against Cincinnati. Would be their 18th overall in the season. Time called. Pinheiro struggling here in the 3rd inning. Taylor Sheriff, the pitching coach, out to have a chat. It all starts, Keegan, with throwing strikes. Talked about it with Max Bergman, the starter, who didn't even make it out of the 1st inning. And when Pinheiro was ahead, he was cruising. All of a sudden, he can't find the zone.
Yeah, base runner gets on via hit by pitch, and then right as we've talked about it both times, talking about how Miami doesn't really like to steal bases, they take off shortly after. It just puts pressure on the pitchers, maybe causes them to focus a little bit too much and tighten up, and then the opposing team takes advantage.
Now, mound visit over. With Pinheiro down 3-0, man at first. Already a run in this inning. Pinheiro still can't find it. A 4-pitch walk. And the inning continues. Blake Buzzio coming up.
Number 12, Blake Buzzio.
So Miami a chance to make this an even bigger inning. Buzzio hit the ball hard his first at bat, lined out to short. You mentioned it, the 2 hardest hit balls in this game have been lineouts to shortstop. Five balls in a row issued by Pinheiro.
Can't find either the fastball or the off speed now.
Weekly hit up the middle. Brooks from short. just in time, touches the bag and pinwheels up in the air. Comes down hard. Makes the play, gets the final out, but the attention now on Brooks, who went flying up in the air. A bang-bang play, and Rather undercut him.
Jordan Bischel is not happy. He wants the umpires to address the runner not sliding.
Good to see Brooks walk off the field. The umpires will talk about it. Rather went in hard without a slide, and they are discussing that. We'll give you an update when we come back in the top of the fourth. Miami gets another run. They lead at 5-0.
A trivia question that's relative to Miami.
Miami gets another run in the home half of the third inning. They lead at 5-0 against Cincinnati. Top of the fourth coming up. 2-3-4 for Cincinnati, starting with Donovan Ford. Troy Benko still on the mound. Why not? He has faced the minimum. 2 innings of work. He has retired all 6. By the way, going back to that play to end that last inning with Brooks getting undercut, did not appear to be any sort of repercussions for Rather, who is still behind the plate. Jordan Bischel, as you mentioned, was not happy about the lack of a slide for Rather going into second base, undercutting his shortstop that's already dealt with injury early this season.
I'm curious what the rules are, because I know if they do that in a double play situation, both runners are out, but since there was 2 outs.
Wide of third, foul. I don't think Rather had any sort of dirty implications by any means, but you'd still think that there would be the recognition to slide in that situation. Bunt down the third base line. Krupinski charges, throws on the run again, and that throw is in time. Good pick at the back end from Applewick. Ford and the Bearcats want that challenged. As of right now, an out at first base on the bunt bid for Ford.
See if they make the trip down the left field line to go review it. And yep, they will. Looked safe from that angle.
Might be a good look at it here.
Blocks the ball a little bit.
So they'll look at it. This is my recent favorite part of the game, Keegan. Let's speed up the pace of play with a pitch clock and then look at a replay for 5 minutes.
This happened the same at the end of the Wright State Cincinnati game yesterday on a stolen base attempt. And I said a Rothstein-ism of, I love college baseball, I hate end-of-game delays.
You were losing the human element of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, in the next, maybe year or two, you're going to get ABS involved. At that point, why even have a home plate umpire? Why have any umpires?
Why have any players? Just have an AI computer simulate the result of the game.
Go play it on MLB The Show.
So do you have a hot take on the pitch signal system that they do from catcher to pitcher?
Yeah, I believe, now again, we could go into a total tangent here, but I think you lose the art of calling a game.
Yeah.
You lose the art of, you have a runner at second base, you need to go through a series of signs so it doesn't get picked up. Call stands is out after the video review. That was John Molesky and Justin Penix, the third and home plate umpires, respectively, going to the video room to confirm that call. And Ford is out on a bang-bang play at first base.
Now, I believe they only get one review. So UC burns their review just like yesterday, relatively early in the game.
Can understand the reasoning. Down 5 runs, you want to try to spark something here in the 4th inning, but doesn't pay off. Vitterick takes strike 1.
Good first pitch. It looked like a changeup.
I'll tell you, Troy Benko out of the pen. 7 up and 7 down. He's been really good. Miami this week has shown very good pitching. Took the loss yesterday, allowed 6 runs, but both bullpens really were very good. Xavier especially. Talk more about that in the second game later on tonight. But there's been some very good bullpen work from this RedHawks group. Harajli yesterday pitched well despite taking the loss.
I think the pitch clock might need to be calibrated because that one came in at a measly 45 miles an hour.
Two-two to Vitterick. And it's fouled off. I wonder if it is calculating the throw to home or the throw back to the pitcher.
Yeah, could be.
Nonetheless, whatever Benko's throwing, it's been working. Vitterick has the only hit for Cincinnati today, a bunt single in the first inning. They've put up good at-bats, just not much to show for it. And again, we've talked about it a little bit. Took 2 out of 3 against Texas Tech over the weekend. During this prolongated run of success for Cincinnati, a stretch in which they've won 8 out of their last 10 games coming into the yesterday, they had scored an average of more than 7 runs a game. Pulled to right on a line for Vitterick. Proctor back and watches it one hop the wall. A hard ricochet behind him, and Vitterick pulls into second with a double.
What an excellent at-bat, fighting and fighting and fighting until he got his pitch. Fouled off some fastballs near or out of the zone and got something he liked and pulled it just off the base of the wall. So now UC's working with a really dangerous runner on the base paths. Got 1 out.
Much needed there for Cincinnati. Both hits today have been off of Vitterick's bat. And here's Jack Natilli. Strikeout victim, his first at bat. That double breaks up the run of 7 in a row retired by Benko and 8 in a row retired overall. Ninth double of the season for Vitterick, standing at second base. Buzzio right in his back pocket. Buzzio would naturally play closer to second with the man at second base, but Miami is shifting to Tilly here as he drives it deep out to left field. Novak at the wall, and that baby's gone. The run of production offensively continues for Natilli, a 2-run shot, and the Bearcats on the board to make it 5-2.
And Natilli gets home, and he's trying to pump up his teammates to get some momentum and some life. And you know what? He came extremely close to having 2 home runs yesterday. So it's only right that the baseball gods reward him with a really deep drive over the left field fence.
Didn't need any help with the wind on that one. A 2-run shot. 4th home run of the year for the Bearcat catcher. So they finally get to Benko here in this 4th inning. How about Jack Natilli Keegan? 14 runs batted in over the last 11 games coming in. He adds 2 more. So 16 in the last 11 and a half games, including today.
No, this is a time to keep the foot on the pedal and put some pressure on Miami's pitchers. Maybe Benko can start to struggle a little bit, miss the zone, but it's also a chance for him to kind of go through some adversity, much like a lot of his teammates did yesterday.
I suppose if you want to be a glass half full kind of guy, the saving grace there, yes, you allowed the home run, but it does clear the bases. You can start fresh. As Mitchell flies it right center field, Zarlingo glides over to make the grab. A good bounce back from the right-hander.
Left field, Cal Sepsis.
Now, Benko can give Miami some length. He's gone 5 innings twice on the season. I have a feeling if Miami can continue to hold this lead that Brian Smiley will ride this right-hander as long as he can after having to use a handful of pitchers yesterday. 2 gone, bases empty, and Sefcik looks at it up and away. So finally some life for this Bearcats offense here in the 4th inning. Still chasing 3 runs. Sefcik ahead 2-0. Bearcats host Arizona State this weekend in another Big 12 matchup. Sun Devils come into the week 5th in the Big 12 standings. Had a tough weekend in their most recent matchup against Arizona. That is a late strike call from Justin Pennick. Sefcik thought he had ball 4.
Well, this is where the pitcher can take over the at-bat right here, get in the mind of the hitter after he doesn't like a pitch call.
Trying to work his way all the way back.
You're not exactly in swing mode after a 3-0 fast or 3-0 strike that you thought was a ball.
Payoff pitch. And it's down and away, so it does end up being a walk for Sefcik. Took a little longer than he would have liked, but the inning will continue for Cincinnati.
Yeah, Dawson Hokuff came in for a pinch hit opportunity last night and struck out looking. So brutal to sit the entire game and then come in and go down without a swing.
Getting him in the lineup today in favor of Tommy O'Connor, the usual first baseman for Cincinnati. The time called here a mound visit. Larry Scully, who's been around the game as a pitching coach for a very long time, out to chat with Benko. Benko's a big guy, isn't he? 6'6", 220. That's going to be it. Well, Larry Scully makes the move himself, and Benko's day is done. That's a bit surprising there. To pull Benko here in the 4th inning. Did run into some trouble, but he departs with a man on and 2 out in the 4th. So a call to the bullpen here for Miami. up 3 runs.
Will shows up, starts small and digs in. Will builds connections where others create barriers. Will resolves to grow beyond doubt, to be more than the sum of our setbacks. Will finds a way forward because it's not just what we do, it's who we are. Your vision, our purpose. Together, we will.
Vardavis is into the game for Miami. 2 2/3 of really good work from Troy Benko. His day is done. He leaves a man at first base for this left-hander. Hasn't pitched in a little while. March 8th, his last appearance, but he was very good in that appearance against Toledo. 5 1/3, allowed a run, and struck out 4 against the Rockets.
Out of Hoover High School in Uniontown, Ohio. Started 13 games last season. Came out of the bullpen 3 times for the RedHawks. 59.1 innings, 41 strikeouts in 2024.
A junior now. Go back to a couple of years ago. He earned his first career win against Cincinnati. Depending on how this one ends up getting scored today, Keegan, he may find himself in line for the win once again against the Bearcats. Inherits a 3-run lead here in the 4th inning. Facing Dawson Hokiff. So Benko ends up going 2 2/3, allows 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and a pair of strikeouts. He is still responsible for Sefcik at first. First left-hander of the game, the Bearcats will see. They'll see some good ones this weekend against Arizona State. Started looking at some advance prep for that series. Arizona State has a guy, a 2-way player, Cole Carlton. He's retired his last 26 batters.
That'll do.
This weekend against Arizona, went 4 1/3, struck out 10. He retired all 13 he faced. Fouled off by Hokiff. So I guess my point being here, Keegan, is Bearcats better start to prepare for seeing some, not only lefties, some very good lefties coming up against the Sun Devils.
Yeah, it's a chance for Carrington Cross to have a good series with that righty-lefty matchup. Hokiff just missed that one. Got a pitch he liked. He's probably kicking himself for it.
1-2 is chopped right side into a shift. Buzzio, the second baseman, throws on the run, and it's wide of first. That was going to be a tough play all around. Even with that shift, Hokiff found a gap. And 2 are on with 2 out.
And that's what Cincinnati needed a little bit more of yesterday. Those soft hits that just find enough room to give the runner enough time to get to first. Seems like Wright State was getting a lot of them. Now they get one of their own.
That is scored a hit, and rightfully so. It's a tough play for Buzzio. Even with a good throw, I'm not sure if Hokiff would have been out. Pitch high to Coates. So first and second here for the Cincinnati freshman, Quentin Coates. out of Kansas. Pulled to left with some carry. Novak at the wall, and that is gone. A game-tying 3-run shot, the first of the career for Quentin Coates. And it's a brand-new game in the 4th inning.
And I said it earlier, you were just waiting for something to happen for UC's offense to explode. Natili drives into with that home run earlier, and then Quentin Coates gets his own, tying the game at 5, and now we have a brand-new ball game.
How about that for your first career home run?
Shortstop, Loudon Brooks.
He looked at it a little bit too, a little bit of a pimp job, and to do that on your first one, that's little presence of mind there for Coates.
So tied at 5 in the 4th inning. Bearcats staging their comeback. Down 5-0. They've scored 5 in this inning alone. Something about first-time home runs for these Bearcats against the RedHawks. March 11th, in their first meeting of the year, Charlie Niehaus hit his first career home run against Miami. That was a pinch hit grand slam late in the ball game. Brooks ahead, 3 balls, no strikes. So one of the runs charged to Troy Benko, the other 2 to Vardavis. Check swing, and it missed anyway. The appeal and no swing. So 4-pitch walk, and Vardavis out of the pen has struggled.
Designated hitter, Carrington Cross.
Back to the top of the order for Cincinnati. Carrington Cross, the 9th man to bat this inning. The time called after that pickoff. Larry Scully back out. Always makes you think, Keegan. You never know if there's any sort of pitch count. We don't know if Benko was on any sort of a leash, but grass isn't always greener on the other side, and that's nothing to knock on Vardavis. But Benko, for the most part, ran into a little bit of trouble, but then got the out after the home run, and kind of makes you wonder if, obviously hindsight's always 20/20, but should you have left Benko in the game?
Yeah, like you said, you don't know about the pitch counts. Trying to see, their next game is on Friday, so there's only that 1-day break before they go to Kent State. They're hosting Kent State in Oxford. So, I would think they want to go after this one and not lose to Cincinnati 3 times, but also with the kind of cushion you had offensively with the 5-0 lead, you're kind of comfortable.
Down and in. Well, Benko allowed the 2-run home run, got a fly out to center, and then a walk. The tying run wasn't even at the plate at that point. Yet Miami went to the pen, and since then, Vardavis, single, 3-run home run, walk, and now dealing with one of the best hitters in the nation. Carrington Cross entered the week best in the Big 12 in batting average, 15th in the NCAA. Jordan Bischel talked about what has allowed Cross to take the next step in his game. I mean, he had a very good year last year, 321, 11 home runs, Big 12 honorable mention, but Jordan Bischel said he's staying within himself more. He's differentiating balls and strikes that are within 2 and 3 inches of one another. Just a great eye and great approach at the plate. Almost caught leaning over there. One, 2 to Cross. He's been quiet today. And it has to wait. Another check on Brooks. Vardavis set again, and his 1-2 is way up and away. That one slipped on him. Donovan Ford waits on deck. He started this inning with that bang-bang play bunt bid at first that was reviewed and ultimately upheld. Cincinnati would bat around if he gets a chance here in this 4th inning. Payoff pitch to Cross. Brooks will get the head start if Vardavis lets him. Now the lefty deals. And it is flied out to right center field. Proctor ranging over. Zarlingo was shading him way out to left center, so Proctor over there to make the catch. And that retires the side, but the damage done for Cincinnati. A 5 spot in the 4th against 2 Miami pitchers to tie this ball game up.
Okay, so when it comes to prescription drugs, why don't you have a choice? Yeah, sure, you've got brand name drugs, but those can get expensive. And then there's regular generics, which are safe and effective, but may not be exactly the same as brand name. Why don't you have another option? Meet authorized generics, a unique class of generic drugs approved by the FDA, identical to the brand name, and made of the same active and inactive ingredients as the brand name. Unlike regular generics, which are manufactured by a different company and often have different inactive ingredients, which could result in a different experience. Authorized generics are identical to brand name drugs because they're made with the same exact formula, most often made in the same exact manufacturing facility to give you the same exact texture, taste, size, smell, and feel as the brand name drugs. It's all legit and always FDA approved. Look, when it comes to what you take, you deserve a choice. And you have one. Ask your pharmacist if there's an authorized generic version of your prescription today. Identical to brand name, affordable to you. AuthorizedGenerics.com.
Bottom of the 4th inning, all of a sudden it's a brand new ball game. Everyone all bundled up here at Prasco Park. It's not that cold today, Keenan, is it?
No, it's not cold at all. It's bearable, especially after that winter we had where it felt like 5 degrees consistently.
Without any sun today, it feels a little bit colder than it is, but it is.
Yeah.
It could be a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah, if it was sunny, it would still feel like 30, though, because that's just how Midwest weather hates us.
All of a sudden, a brand new ball game, a 5 spot in the top of the 4th inning for Cincinnati, highlighted by the first career home run for Quentin Coates, one of 2 home runs that inning for the Bearcats. Jack Natilli had the other, as Dylan Baker leads it off for Miami. They jumped out to the 4-0 lead in the first, added a run in the 3rd. And then the wheels fell off last inning. Good pitch from Joel Pinheiro, who stays out there for another inning. So far, 2 1/3 out of the pen. Well, the offensive explosion has taken Max Bergman off the hook for the loss.
Wow.
Baker chases that one, and Natilli got dinged up at the end of it.
Is it the backswing?
I believe it was. And Keegan, that is the last thing Cincinnati wants to see. Their catcher that's made nearly every start behind the plate getting an errant backswing right off that hand.
Yeah, I never really experienced that in my days as a catcher, but I don't think it could feel good. Got it in the wrist. You usually see it on the really long backswings on the back of the helmet.
I mean, between the glove and that pitch comm device, how did Baker find any sort of available area to get him? Unlucky there. Yeah, right off that wrist bone, it looks like.
Especially with the two-handed finish from Baker, you rarely see that.
Now that pitch was up and in, too, right in that line of the swing. Again, Jack Natilli, we've talked about him. 16 runs batted in over the last 11 and a half games. Just had that 2-run home run. He has been a staple behind the plate. Corey Klingenbeck has made a couple of starts, Parker McDaniels as well, but Natilli is the guy behind the plate.
No, he's got to have that hand pounded with 85, 90 miles an hour. But I think it's more the wrist, which, I mean, you could probably feel it some, but it doesn't completely take away your ability. Like, if you get the thumb bent back, that's something that happened to me a lot, and it really inhibited. So, but Natilli's tough, so I know he's going to stay in there by all means.
I guess the saving grace is it wasn't the throwing hand.
Yep.
You would have to think, Keegan, it's something to monitor going forward at the plate because that would be his bottom hand.
Yes.
Obviously, swinging a bat, you need both hands, but especially that bottom hand. That's down and away, and Pinheiro issues the walk to open up the bottom of the fourth. Not to make light of the situation, but it makes me think of the movie Benchwarmers when Gus has to go up there with the bum hand and just stick the bat out to bunt, and all of a sudden the bases are loaded, and I got to go to Richie, the sunscreen-eating guy.
Somebody give him the sword.
Carlos is a bit inebriated and hits him, and Benchwarmers win the game. We'll have some more movie references when we come back here to Prasco Park. 5-5, Pinheiro's day is done. Jordan Bischel going to the bullpen for Cincinnati.
What is a Bearcat? A Bearcat is determined, resilient, curious. We show up ready to work, to play, to grow. And while a lot's changed in our 200 years, there is one defining trait that unites us all. Bearcats go big. Big discoveries, big dreams, big impact, big leaps for mankind, big miracles. And when we reach the summit, we fix our gaze on new heights. We never stop. That's just who we are. Bearcats go big.
Prasco Park, second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic, 5-5 between Miami and Cincinnati. The Bearcats going to the bullpen. A leadoff walk issued by Joel Pinheiro, and Jordan Bischel goes to the right-hander that he's very familiar with going back to the Central Michigan days, Michael Conti. He's been very good as of late, Keegan. Over the weekend against Texas Tech, went 3 innings, only allowed 1 run in a pair of appearances. And he's been a go-to right-hander over the course of his career for Jordan Bischel.
Man, could you imagine being at a school, 4 or 5 hours away from where you grew up, and then your coach tells you that he's taken the job in your hometown? Walnut Hills graduate from Michael Conti, a native of Cincinnati. That had to be a pretty good phone call. I get to go home and play for the same coach.
Makes recruiting a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Conti on the season, a 2.84 ERA. He faces Ty Bodicic. Man at first base, nobody out. Bodicic takes inside. Big day yesterday at the plate for Ty Bodicic. That is the first time this game he has not swung at the first pitch today. 0 for 2 with a fly out and a pop out so far on just 2 pitches seen. Well, Bodicic continues to serve as the DH for Miami. Was catching last year, but suffered a high ankle sprain. Brian Smiley said earlier this season that they're managing him, keeping him off his legs. The bat is so valuable in the lineup. He did have surgery after last season, but he played on that high ankle sprain for the majority of the year and still feeling some of the side effects of that injury, so they continue to mostly DH Bodicic. Flies this out to left center, tailing away from Ford in center, but he uses that speed to track it down. And that is the first out here in the fourth. Baker back to first with one away. I'll tell you too, Keegan, another thing that's nice about Prasco Park, the all-natural surface. It's nice seeing a dirty uniform every now and then.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the natural grass surfaces. Every time I go past a baseball field and see a turf field being put in, I cringe a little bit.
Ball up and away to Applewick, 1 for 2 today. And again, here we are. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? We complain about the weather in one breath in this area, especially in the early parts of the spring, but it would be tough to play without turf fields. Cloudy skies overhead today. The rain has stayed away for the moment. But I agree with you, Keegan. It's always nice to see natural dirt and grass instead of artificial turf. Beautiful complex here in Mason, Ohio. All within about an hour of these institutions. Xavier and Wright State in the championship game coming up later on tonight, scheduled for a 6 o'clock start. Conti's 2-0 to Applewick. His shot to third, and that is past the dive of Coates. Rolling down into the corner, Sefcik grabs it there to throw to third, is cut, and it is a double for Evan Applewick. Second hit of the day, and Miami threatening in the fourth.
Great swing, pulls it down the line, and now, as you said, Miami's cooking second and third with one of their better hitters coming up to the plate.
Miami just gave up the lead in the top half of this inning. But second and third with one out against Michael Conti. That ball was smoked. Sixth double of the season for Applewick. And you mentioned it, Keegan, Zarlingo at the plate now. Oh for 2 so far for the center fielder for the RedHawks. Conti in some trouble. Baker at third is the responsibility of Pinheiro. Applewick at second would be charged to Conti after that double. Fly to left, Sefcik towards the line. Baker back to tag at third, Sefcik the catch. Here comes Baker, the throw to the infield is cut, and Miami back in front by a run. Sac fly RBI for Zarlingo to make it 6-5.
Yeah, dealing with the wind, Sefcik couldn't really get behind that ball in order to get a proper running start to try to have it play at the plate. Still a pretty good throw, but Miami takes a 6-5 lead. Now, if you're Conti and you can have that situation of being second and third with only one out and know they give up a run, you have to think that's a small win, especially with how the last some 13 innings have gone for UC.
Here's Ryan Novak. Miami's still threatening. And he gets hit. Now you just saw that note a moment ago. Ryan's younger brother Cameron is set to play for Miami as well, so you can add another Novak to this roster coming up here soon. He gets plunked right off the knee. And first and second with 2 outs.
Here comes Jordan Bishel for a mound meeting.
Mound meeting or prolonged pitching change, we'll find out. right off that front leg.
Now, you see, he wastes no time this time. He wasn't trying to test the umpire, see how long he'd let him go.
So Conti is done. He faces 4, retires 2, allows the inherited runner to score. And a pitching change for Cincinnati. It is the lefty Chase Horst coming into the game. I mentioned it going to the break. Chase Horst coming into the game. Appeared over the weekend against Texas Tech. He went an inning, struck out 2 in a scoreless effort. Has not allowed an earned run this season. He hasn't been used very much out of the Cincinnati bullpen, Keegan. Go back a couple of years ago, he was an all-conference freshman team selection in the American Athletic Conference, but hasn't been used very much this year. But when he's been in there, he's been very good.
Yeah, just had a fastball touch up to 87, got a really whippy delivery, and that's something that hitters don't love facing.
Only 4 1/3 innings on the season for this left-hander. Third pitcher used this inning by Cincinnati. Pinheiro started it, only faced 1 batter. And then Conti faced 4, allowed the inherited runner to score to make it 6-5 Miami. Hit a batter, and now it's on to Horst. On the outside corner for a strike against Krupinski.
Interesting choice for the gray undershirt for Horst.
Gray on gray. He's got his grout fit going. Now, if we were in 7th grade, he'd be getting made fun of for that.
Or if he played for my high school team, he'd be not playing because he wore the wrong uniform.
That's true. It is a different shade, so at least it breaks it up a little bit. It's amazing looking back what you'd get picked on for as a kid. You're wearing gray on gray, loser, grout fit. 1-2, that's down and away. Nowadays, I feel like they sell those sweatsuits that are all the same color for $100 a pop.
I wear gray on gray weekly.
Popped up. Shallow left, and now back a few steps. That's actually carrying more than I thought, but still playable out there for Sefcik, and it retires the side. Miami wastes no time. They get to run back and take a 6-5 lead onto the 5th.
Stage is set for my people, yeah. Coming back like a sequel, yeah. So hot, I'm a fever, yeah. Like the white wolf, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I'm running on straight diesel, yeah. Like I'm evil, Knievel, yeah. Too fast, it's illegal. Call me the underdog, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I don't ever wanna look back. The future's blurry, but the past is a trap. I might be staring at my last.
Watch the fight.
But I'm cold-blooded. I'm cold-blooded. Ice in my veins, never gonna run. Little
gloomy day at Prasco Park. Miami in front 6-5. Just got a run back on a sac fly RBI for Anthony Zarlingo. Miami in search of its first win of the year against Cincinnati. A new pitcher into the game here for the RedHawks, going back to the bullpen. It is Taylor Eccles, freshman right-hander from Wapakoneta, Ohio, into the game. Last pitched against Butler on March the 26th, when an inning struck out a batter in a scoreless effort. He's getting a long time here to warm up. The two head coaches, Brian Smiley and Jordan Bischel, meeting with all three umpires and members of the Prasco Park facilities crew over near the Bearcats dugout. Not sure what that's about, but they've been talking in, I don't want to say a heated discussion, but definitely an enlightened discussion for quite some time.
Yeah, let's just say at least Jordan Bischel has been trying to get his point across. It looks like they're looking at a phone. Is it supposed to start raining? Are they planning to coming up with a contingency plan for weather? You'd think that'd be in the rules, though.
Yeah, I have a feeling that would have been discussed beforehand. Not too often. I mean, if that is the case, you don't have that long of a discussion in the middle of the ball game. I have to wonder if there were some extracurriculars being said or something around the ballpark that maybe went unnoticed, but Jordan Bischel, the head coach for Cincinnati, has certainly spearheaded this conversation.
Yeah.
Again, this is a long delay. They've been talking for quite some time. You can see him there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. All three umpires, Brian Smiley in the red, Jordan Bischel with the Bearcat hat on, and then a couple of members of the Prasco Park facility staff. We're making no speculations, but this is certainly unique to say the least. So Eccles continues to take some tosses just to stay loose. He would come in to replace Nick Vardavis. Only went a third of an inning and gave up the lead that Miami had put together early in the game. RedHawks got a run back on the sac fly RBI. Again, this just continues, Keegan, to be a very strange situation.
And now it's Bischel and Miami's head coach kind of going back and forth a little bit.
And again, we want to emphasize it is civil. Nobody's yelling. There's no pointing or anything along the lines. But Jordan Bischel is, I think you said it best, getting his point across and taking charge in this conversation. Tom Winsky, one of the assistants for Cincinnati over there now as well.
I think we're getting word about they're talking about the rain and tarping possibly.
Well, I'll tell you this much. I mean, if that is the crux of the conversation, you've wasted 10 minutes of playable weather.
Yeah.
I understand you have to factor in there's another game. You can't let the field get too soiled, but at the same time, I think you need to take advantage of when the weather is playable. Because if you're looking at it from the Miami perspective here as well, you want to get through the 5 innings and have it be a full game if you can hold on to this one-run lead.
Yeah. because it's supposed to start raining at 4.
It's only 3:48 right now. This conversation started, and it was 3:35, it seems. I made that number up, but it's what that's what it seems like, you know? I mean, they've been talking for a long time.
So Jordan Bishel kind of speaking for most of the conversation. Looks like we're going to go to break here real quick, and we'll let you guys know the status of what's going on when we get back.
Yeah, we'll sort this all out. But again, the umpires and head coaches have caused a delay here at Prasco Park in the top of the 5th.
Okay, so when it comes to prescription drugs, why don't you have a choice? Yeah, sure, you've got brand name drugs, but those can get expensive. And then there's regular generics, which are safe and effective, but may not be exactly the same as brand name. Why don't you have another option? Meet authorized generics, a unique class of generic drugs approved by the FDA, identical to the brand name, and made of the same active and inactive ingredients as the brand name. Unlike regular generics, which are manufactured by a different company and often have different inactive ingredients, which could result in a different experience. Authorized generics are identical to brand name drugs because they're made with the same exact formula, most often made in the same exact manufacturing facility to give you the same exact texture, taste, size, smell, and feel as the brand name drugs. It's all legit and always FDA approved. Look, when it comes to what you take, you deserve a choice. And you have one. Ask your pharmacist if there's an authorized generic version of your prescription today. Identical to brand name, affordable to you. AuthorizedGenerics.com.
This wants to start.
Now we're back at Prasco Park. Miami has left the field. And again, we've heard reports that it is about weather, Keegan, but it's not even raining. It is not raining. There is rain expected later on today, but whatever was said in that conversation has resulted in Miami being taken off the field and Cincinnati going back in the dugout as they're set to take their at-bats in the top of the 5th.
Yeah, we've got fans in the stands, kind of, and a few of them have their palms up, looking
no
at
umbrellas.
The sky like it's not raining. I just don't get stopping the game in the middle of the game because it's not. You're stopping because it's going to rain.
All this time that you've spent having this conversation, you have wasted 20 minutes of playable baseball. And even you just looked at the weather. It's expected to rain here in a little while. For all we know, it's going to be a drizzle. It's going to be a mist. I mean, maybe there is more significant weather coming in that would eventually prompt the delay or maybe cancellation if it got to that point. But there's no reason you cannot be playing baseball right now at Prasco Park.
And both teams should be wanting to play. If you're Miami, you get to the 5th inning, you can win this game. If you're UC, you just scored 5 runs last inning. Your offense has found some life as we see the tarp going on the field. So looks like this could be a pretty elongated delay.
I mean, if you're Cincinnati, like you said, you just lost to Wright State. And again, the Raiders, a very good baseball program, but you would think you want as many wins as you can possibly get. You want this game. I guess you could look at it and say, well, you don't want another loss as well, but this is interesting. This is very, very interesting. The tarp is coming on the field at Prasco Park. It's not even raining, folks, but the tarp's coming on, and we'll step aside to Start hour rain delay coverage in the second day of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. Miami leads at 6-5, and the fifth inning won't get started quite yet.
The stage is set for my people, yeah. Coming back like a sequel, yeah. So hot, I'm a fever, yeah. Like the white wolf, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I'm running out straight pizza, yeah. Like I'm evil Knievel, yeah. Too fast, it's illegal. Call me the underdog, gonna make you a believer, yeah. I don't ever wanna look back. The future's blurry, but the past is a trap. I might be staring at my last chance.
Watch the three fights.
But I'm cold-blooded. I'm cold-blooded. Ice in my veins, never gonna run. Venom on my face, fire on my tongue. I'm cold-blooded. It's all or nothing. If I go down, gonna burn with the sun. Won't quit now till I'm sitting on the throne. I'm cold-blooded.
All right, well, we welcome everybody in. Justin Kinner, Reed Mouse.
Yeah, what about this? Didn't think I was going to be on camera. This is fun.
It's just a 1-2 punch now, you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So we knew that weather was going to impact the day. We just didn't know how much it was going to impact the day, when it was going to impact the day. We were kind of cruising 5 innings in, or at least top of the fifth as we sit here right now. A good one. Obviously, Miami of Ohio with the 6-5 lead over the Bearcats as we sit here right now, but a little bit of stoppage in play with some weather that's coming this way.
Yeah, no, it's they had a long discussion out on the field, and they said, hey, what are we going to do? Are we going to play? Are we going to start this inning? And I think that was the cause for concern between both Coach Smiley and UC's head coach. And then they go, all right, this is imminent. It's going to take time. We got to get the tarp out on the field. It takes a lot of people to get it, and they're still getting it ready out there on the field. But probably the right call. If you have a phone and you can look at the Doppler radar, you know what we're in for. It's going to be a good amount of rain, and you never want to back up an action-packed day like we have here at Prasco Park the last 2 days. But unfortunately, in Southwest Ohio, in April, this is what you kind of have to deal with. You're going to have some bad weather. It's going to be cold. It's going to be 80 degrees one day, 30 degrees the next day. There's going to be snow. There's going to be sleet. There's going to be rain. You get all the seasons in 1 week, and unfortunately, we're cruising through a really good back-and-forth game, and now we're going to have to take a little bit of hiatus and just push back the baseball a little bit. Absolutely.
Again, day 2 of the Joe Nuxhall Classic. Miami of Ohio and Cincinnati going head-to-head again. Miami of Ohio lost to Xavier yesterday in Game 1. The Bearcats lost a tough one last night against Wright State. That sets up the Joe Nuxhall Classic Championship later on tonight. Wright State and Xavier will go head-to-head, but we got to get through this one first. So just a little bit of pause in the action just so we can kind of, allow them to kind of get a plan in place for how they want to go about this. Because that's the thing, too. Like, you want to get these games in, but, bigger picture, conference games, all this stuff, too. They're not trying to, run through their entire pitching staff and just and risk, injuries and all that other fun stuff, too. So.
Well, that's what's really interesting about this competition. And you can tell sometimes you watch tournaments and stuff like that, and you can just tell, these teams really, heart isn't in it. That's not the case what's going out here at the field. These midweek games so often for college coaches are kind of experiments. Go, all right, we know what we've got on the weekend. We know who's going to start, but, maybe there's a left field spot that's open. So, all right, we're going to give this freshman a chance to play out in left field. Or maybe we got this really talented arm that just needs to see some innings out on the field. And, all right, we'll throw him in the midweek game and see how many outs he can get, see if he can get some strikeouts, see how his confidence is kind of built up. That's normally how you treat midweek games. That's not what's happening out here on the field for the past day and a half. Is all these teams, you can tell how much it means to them playing not just, some local competition. And you guys mentioned this on the pregame show. It's the best competition that we've seen at the Nuxhall Classic for a few years now. All the teams playing really well in their own conference. But you can tell how much it means to them to kind of have bragging rights and say, hey, all right, Southwest Ohio's so rich in baseball tradition, so rich in baseball history. We're the best college in this area. Whether that be Xavier or Wright State tonight that's going to take home the championship, even in this game that we're seeing that we have a delay right now, It's Miami, Cincinnati, not the rivalry that it once was, but I can tell you there's certainly no love lost between those two schools, and you can just tell how much it means to them to play.
Well, you add the fact, too, like if you're Cincinnati, and we've talked a lot about them battling for RPI and to get to the NCAA tournament, and yesterday's loss against Wright State kind of, stung a little bit from that. I mean, for one, losing to an in-state opponent, that doesn't feel good. But that does it is a knock against their resume. That does hurt them. So to bounce back and have a chance to kind of take care of business against a team like Miami of Ohio before they get back to conference play, where they have Arizona State coming up this weekend, they want to get back in that win category. And then if you're Miami of Ohio, you had a 4-0 lead yesterday against Xavier that you let slip through your fingers. You had another opportunity where the bases are loaded. You left all those batters stranded, all those runners stranded. So they've missed opportunities. And then similarly today, a 4-0 lead. They let that lead slip away, but then they get the lead right back. That's something that they didn't do yesterday. You're right. They're not just trying to go through the motions today. You could see the competitive nature for both teams out on the field right now.
Yeah. You mentioned both what's kind of at stake here on top of the rivalry. Miami, it's been such a weird year for them. It's the second year of Coach Brian Smiley.
Yep.
We've been broadcasting. Chatterbox Sports actually has the rights to all of their home games, so we see them quite a bit. And last year we saw them take a significant stride forward and say, all right, this is a different brand of baseball than we saw the year prior. This year they've only grown on that. Their one bugaboo is they can't figure out these midweek games. Not a single win during the midweek so far this year, and a lot of it's what I mentioned earlier. You're trying out a few different things. Maybe the roster isn't as deep as, a school like UC that's in the Big 12 or other Big 12, other schools in the area. But you kind of want to get the monkey off your back at some point. It's not even just about, we want to win the Nuxhall Classic, or we want to compete, we want to beat a rival in UC. It's just like, can we win a midweek game? I know you don't have to be constrained to winning on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You're allowed to win Monday through Thursday too, and that's really what Brian Smiley's trying to get his team, showing them is like, hey, we're a good team. Let's put it together on this Wednesday game, this Tuesday game, whenever it is. We gotta start winning some midweek games.
Yeah, to do that again, they're 0-8 now, looking to avoid going 0-9. They're 0-2 against the Bearcats this season already. They do have a lead against the top of the fifth. If you're just tuning in, wondering why the heck we're on the screen, well, we're right now just kind of hanging out with you guys until we figure out what's going on with this weather delay. There is a cell that's kind of making its way in, and they're being preemptive with some of their decision-making. There was one lady I ran into in the parking lot on the way out. She had a cane, and she had her dog in her other hand, and she said she's so glad that they let them know ahead of time to get to the car, because she would have had the cane and the dog trying to get all the way out to the parking lot, so she was very appreciative of that. But nonetheless, Miami and Cincinnati going head-to-head right now. Again, they faced each other twice already this season. Cincinnati has won 4 straight, and Miami of Ohio trying to snap that losing streak. And to do that, like you said, it'd be their first win in the middle of the week, but also a nice little revenge win after what happened yesterday, and already giving up that lead already big today.
Right. And on top of that, that's what Miami's looking to do. Cincinnati, they're saying, all right, we've already beat you twice, and there is kind of this rivalry, but I know sometimes the UC fans stick their nose up like, hey, we're not rivals with Miami, we're rivals with Xavier. So if they could get another win here today, what's the old adage? Hey, it's tough to beat a team 3 times. Well, you get third one, that's a season sweep on you, and you can talk about bragging rights. Like, all right, you could stay up there in Oxford and things like that.
Well, and that's the thing too, and that's what's always interesting about Cincinnati, because when you're in the American Conference, still a bigger conference than the Horizon or the MAC, but still close enough to where it's not as bad when you lose. But you're a Big 12 team now, right? Yeah. Like, it stings a little more when you lose to a Horizon League team. It stings a little more when you lose to a MAC team. And, and that's what I think you see Miami and Wright State. They take a little bit more pleasure in, obviously, and having a chance to punch up, if you will. So, we'll see. I am really hoping that we get to resume this game at some point. I want to see how Miami of Ohio comes out and how they respond. You talk about how you handle these midweek games a little bit differently, and how we've kind of seen some examples of ways that they're not handling these like typical week games. We've seen some pitchers that you traditionally wouldn't really go to in these particular situations. There's the rain.
I was going to say, there's the rain, there's the winds, everything's getting titled up. You've got the championship belt right there.
I don't know if Casey, if you're in the back watching, I know you're a big wrestling fan now. I don't think John Cena's ever held one of these right here. John Cena's held a lot of belts. It's a legit weighted belt, I'm telling you right now, but I don't want to be selfish. This is for the MVP of the Joe Nuxhall Classic at some point when we announce one. So
I was going to say, I don't know how well that'd be good at holding mean up your pants like belts are traditionally done for, because there is a bit of weight that goes with that. But it's
pants on the ground, pants on the ground.
That's right. That's pretty good. The other thing that you guys can see in your frame is the brand new Joe Nuxhall trophy. Prasco made that. I don't know if you can see on your screen, but because it's brand new, no names on it yet. So
are we allowed to touch it? Are we allowed to?
Yeah.
I would be the one to. Well, you know what? Why not?
I'm from Hamilton. It's Joe Nuxhall. I think it all works there. But here we're going
about
live.
Went down.
We're about going down. This is getting. But it's that thing's heavy too.
Ooh, this is about taller than I am, to be quite honest with you. This is heavy. I'm not doing it. I'm just. I don't want to. Yeah, we're going to leave her right there. You know, we don't need to risk breaking that. It is quite heavy.
But you get a christen the new trophy. Yes. If you win either Xavier or Wright State tonight's going to get a christen the new Joe Nuxhall trophy, which I know Xavier's won the last 2 that were given out. But there's something about the first team that got on the Stanley Cup. There's something about getting your name first on that trophy that no one can ever take that from you.
Absolutely. Again, right now, just waiting to get word on what they're planning on doing as far as how long they can expect this delay to go on. Again, we do have Xavier and Wright State coming up later on tonight. My favorite thing about that is you have 2 coaches right now who just last week got their 200th win.
Right.
So, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that nice little collision of 2 very good coaches, 2 good programs right now, and a chance to be the first one to put their name on that trophy, as you talked about.
Well, yeah, it's those are 2 coaches, and really it just keeps going back to what we talked about, what you guys said in the pregame is just kind of the talent that we keep seeing being amassed here in the Cincinnati, Southwest Ohio area. And, you know, Alex Sogard, he took over at Wright State. I think this is his 8th year, something like that. He's been there for almost a decade. 200 wins, that's nothing to sleep on, and that's with some Horizon League titles, and they're almost the perennial favorite to win the Horizon League. And then you've got teams, you got Xavier, who, you know, the Big East isn't the best baseball conference in the country, but there's still normally some really good teams, and they play right here at Prasco Park, which, by the way, you understand why it's so pristine with how quickly they put out that tarp. They got some great help here.
Oh, they were prepared. They were ready to go, and no doubt about it. You know, it's funny you brought up, you know, Wright State with Sogard, and you know, I saw, you know, Wright State beat Cincinnati last night, right. And everyone, man, how do you lose to Wright State? If you're not familiar with Wright State, I don't think you understand how that's not as bad of a loss as what some people like to make it out to be. I mean, they're regular, they make regular NCAA regional appearances. They dominate. They're perennial favorites every year in the Horizon League, as you talked about. And I went and looked. When you look at the amount of Major League Baseball players that these 4 schools produce, Wright State produces as many, if not more, than the other 3 schools. And that's not a shot at those schools. I'm just trying to make sure we point out just how much talent goes through that Wright State Raider program.
Right, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at guys that come from these programs that are currently playing in the league, you know, the biggest name that came from Miami in recent years was Adam Eaton. He played 10 years in the league. Wright State, little old Wright State, has a guy who's gotten a $100 million contract in Sean Murphy playing down there for the Atlanta Braves, a perennial World Series champion. Cincinnati has guys like Ian Happ. Xavier's still looking to get their first, you know, big name marquee guy that gets into the major leagues and breaks through. But if you ask people that know baseball, follow college baseball somewhat closely, you don't even need to follow it with a microscope, just somewhat closely in the state of Ohio. You ask, hey, who's the best college baseball team in Ohio? You know what probably are the top 2 answers? It's not Ohio State. It's not Cincinnati. It's not any of the bigger names that you'd think of. It's normally either Kent State, Wright State. Because those 2 teams have had a lot of success over the last 20 years, and specifically Wright State under Alex Sogard. And a big thing that both Wright State and UC have done in kind of the collection of talking about Southwest Ohio baseball, and part of the reason that we've seen UC kind of take some serious strides forward, and we've seen Wright State be at the forefront of baseball in Ohio for the last decade plus, is because they take kids from a talent-rich area, Southwest Ohio. They take local kids and they put them on the diamond because these kids know how to play baseball. You're looking at this Miami UC game. UC has 5-6 guys in the starting lineup that are from Cincinnati. Guys like Lawton Brooks, guys like Landon Vitterick. You look at Wright State, they got guys like J.P. Peltier, guys that are from this area that are used to winning, used to playing great ball, because everyone in Cincinnati knows how baseball-rich this town is, Southwest Ohio is. And you say, all right, this translates to the college level. This translates to wins on the field. And really that's kind of been the hallmark of Wright State over the last 10, 15 years.
You mentioned Sean Murphy. Not only is he a feel-good story for that program, but he's from Centerville, like right in town too.
Right.
So it's like they got him right in their own backyard and the success story that he is. But yeah, I was just pulling this up. I mean, you look at that Wright State has 2 active pros right now, and Jesse Schultens right now and Sean Murphy, both drafted in 2016. Peyton Burdick, he got called up and played for the Marlins for a season, and then the Reds picked him up for a Brit. I know they designated him for assignment since then, but a lot of those names have floated around. You talked about some of the players from Miami and Xavier and Cincinnati, so a lot of really talented players have come through these programs, no doubt.
Yeah, no, it's just shows the talent in this area, and it's funny how they kind of either Wright State and UC both have done this. Xavier's done this to some degree, and Miami has as well. Is they let the kids or let the players, commit somewhere else. You're looking at Lawden Brooks for UC.
Yep.
He first commits to Texas Tech. You're looking at some of the guys on Wright State's roster where they go to Louisville or they go to Indiana and they go, hey, just remember us in case, that's not a right fit for you. And then a year goes on and go, hey, remember when I recruited you in high school? Sean Murphy, you're from Centerville. Why don't you just come to Wright State? Hey, Lawden Brooks, I know you're from McNick. You're from Anderson. I know it didn't work out for you down in Texas Tech. Maybe it wasn't a right fit for you. But, hey, why don't you come on back to UC? So you can just keep pulling those kids at, hey, this is a great spot. This is a good bounce-back spot for your college baseball, for your baseball career. And then, as you mentioned, the guys that have been drafted from these programs that go, hey, not only is it good for your college career, but we'll get some eyeballs on you. I don't know if you've seen, but we've got kind of a scouts row here at Prasco Park, and there's, it's filling up as the day goes on. Well, I think they're undercover right now, but, it just shows that we're not just gassing this up. It really is great baseball.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you were tuning in, because you're like, oh, man, I tuned in to watch Miami of Ohio and Cincinnati right now, and you're like, who are these two? Justin Kinner, Reed Mouse. It's, we're like Brian Giesenschlag and Sam LeCure right now. We're just, rain delay coverage for you right now. Again, it's the Joe Nuxhall Classic, day number 2, Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio right now, game 1 on game 2, and then the championship game coming up later on with Wright State and Xavier as far as that's concerned. So I think we're wrapping this up briefly for right now. We'll continue to keep you guys updated as far as when we can expect this game to resume. And right now that rain's coming down pretty hard, so it's just kind of a waiting game right now for the time being. Cool.
Well, thanks for having me up here. Normally you're kicking me off sets, so today you're welcoming me on.
For now we're done, so I don't know how how we wrap this up. But we'll have more coverage for you here live from the Joe Nuxhall Classic, Prasco Field here in Mason. We appreciate you guys tuning in.
the second day, first game of the Joe Nuxhall Classic between Cincinnati and Miami. What started as a rain delay has turned into a rain cancellation, Keegan. This game will not be continued. You can wipe off all the stats from this game, which some players are thankful for and some players probably less thankful for, but this game, it's still not raining terribly hard right now, but you look at the extended forecast, there is a bout of bad rain coming in a little while, and with this game being a midweek, not really mattering for anything other than a win or a loss, the two teams and the umpires with the facility staff coming to the conclusion that it's best to cancel the rest of this game and get ready for the start of the championship game coming up later tonight.
Yeah, and if you're Quentin Coates, you don't look at the stat book. That's a game time 3-run home run for your first career home run. But yeah, obviously they try to salvage whatever they can for the championship game. They put the tarp on before it started raining just to make sure that they were prepared for whatever precipitation might come down. And I'd say about 20-25 minutes after the meeting initially started, that's when it actually started raining. So hopefully Wright State and Xavier can get that game in, even though the forecast looks kind of ugly later.
Yeah, you look at the extended forecast, again, coming up in about 15-20 minutes. It could be a big bout of rain, and then maybe closer towards the start of the second game, it could get heavy again. But as of right now, still scheduled for a 6 p.m. start for the Joe Nuxhall Championship between Wright State and Miami. But this game Wright State and Xavier, my apologies, in the championship game. This game between Cincinnati and Miami will not continue after 4 innings. They were about to start the 5th when that meeting occurred and ultimately led to the cancellation of the rest of this game. So none of the stats count. The score does not count. Neither team will get credited with a win nor a loss. And Prasco Park and the facility staff will get ready for hopefully a 6 p.m. start time between Wright State and Xavier in the championship meeting. That does it all for Game 1 of this second day of the Nuxhall Classic. For Keegan Nickerson, I'm Anthony Mazzini signing off. Again, make sure you stay tuned and follow along for the updates, if there are any, for the second game of the doubleheader, starting at 6 o'clock in the championship game of the Nuxhall Classic between Wright State and Xavier, coming up from Prasco Park.
The stage is set for my people, yeah. Coming back like a sequel, yeah. So hot, I'm a fever, yeah.